have you heard about the rule of 72?
No.
Oh my gosh, this is pretty cool.
This is The Payoff with me, Sylvia Jeffreys. Queenie, welcome to The Payoff.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. We got to chat on Today Extra just a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks back, when you launched your book, The Fun Finance Formula. And I thought, oh, there's so much more to your story. I need you for an hour, not for 5 minutes. So thank you for coming in and giving us some time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You're such a professional and I'm really excited to be
Oh,
on.
you're lovely. I want to start with something fun because gosh, finance can just be like stressful. It can be overwhelming. It can seem like another language at times, but you're all about making it fun. And I wondered what is maybe the most fun thing you've done with your money lately?
Ooh, okay. I think one of the best things that I've ever done with my money is I took I like to call it like a little mini retirement. And I took 3 months off work completely and I basically did a round the world trip. And that was a few years ago now. So it's the first time I've done such a long trip. And I was really nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, it's such a long trip. Like, will it be okay? Will I have enough money to get through it? It all went fine. Thankfully, I had some money saved. I could also still remote work a bit. So I could still earn a bit of money on the trip. And yeah, it was just such a cool experience being this is what life's about, being able to go to a beach, halfway across the world on a random Tuesday is amazing. And I feel like that's something that I want to do more often and something I also encourage people to think differently about money. What if instead of just waiting until we're 65, we actually break in little mini retirements throughout our lifetime, instead of just waiting to enjoy it all when we're old, why not kind of break up the work year every few years, maybe take a little mini retirement to reset, recharge, and of course make sure it doesn't derail your finances and have some money saved. But yeah.
Well, it helps you to reevaluate sometimes too, to sort of break the cycle and get off the hamster wheel. So how do you budget though? How do you set yourself up financially to be able to step away for 3 months?
Yeah, of course. So I like to put aside, whenever I get paid, I like to pay myself first. So I set aside 20% of my pay and it automatically gets invested. And I've been doing this for quite a long time. So since I started investing when I was around 19. So I've just been, back then it was a lot less, it was not very much money at all. But I think setting up that habit, putting aside little bits of money whenever I have money has just been amazing. And now that I'm lucky, I'm earning more money, I can put aside more money. And I also have that money that I have invested in the past, compounding. So yeah, I really do feel the hardest part is getting started, but it's important to start because even if you're starting with not very much money, it's it builds that habit and it gets easier,
How did you start investing?
So I started when I was around 19 and I had $5,000 saved. And
that's a lot of money for a 19-year-old to have saved. What kind of work were you doing?
It was all of my money. I started working when I was 14 at McDonald's.
Yeah,
so that
me
was
too.
my first job. Oh my gosh, wow. Oh my gosh, I feel everyone's worked at McDonald's at some stage.
9 months,
yes,
McDonald's Cooperoo, I was straight in the front door.
And I looked so young, so people were like, how old
are you allowed to be here?
Exactly.
Were you front counter, drive-through?
Yes, front counter. What about you?
A bit of both. Drive-through with I feel like you had to graduate to drive-through.
Yes.
That was the peak of the gigs if you were customer-facing because you could just stand in the window, not talk to anyone, just hand it out the door.
Yes, that's so good. Yeah. So that was fun. But then I started working in retail and I tried to I was living at home until I was about 19, so I was lucky that I had a bit of money saved from living at home. I moved out of home when I was 19 though, so yeah, definitely didn't have much savings after that. But yeah, at the time I knew I wanted to start investing because I heard one of my partner's friend was older and he was very experienced and in a very good place financially. And he was telling us about investing. So we were maybe we should start as well. Let's have a look at some options. So I remember doing my research. I heard about ETFs. I was this sounds interesting. I want to buy some ETFs, but I was so scared about which one to pick. So instead of going into buying my own ETFs, I decided to go with a robo-advisor, which is basically it's kind of like a website where you can log in, you tell it things like your age, what kind
Your
of
appetite for risk.
Exactly. You complete this questionnaire.
How long you might like to invest that money for.
Exactly, yeah. And then at the end, it gives you like a portfolio that it recommends you invest in. So we just went with that. And I think the minimum at the time was like $5,000. So we like scraped together $5,000 to invest. And I remember investing that first $5,000 and I was so nervous because it was like
Everything you had.
Yes, exactly. It was like everything. And I was like, oh, this is so scary, you know? I remember logging in daily, just seeing like, oh my gosh, I lost $3 or
It's
oh,
terrifying
man,
looking at it daily.
It's so scary. But I think over time, like just contributing little amounts whenever we could was like so helpful. And I think it was a good start to investing. Now we pick our own ETFs and like have other investments. But yeah, it was a good start.
So when you say you were putting little amounts in over time, were you pretty consistent with that? And how much is a little amount? Like how much would you sort of then put away each month into your investment portfolio?
So with the robo-advisor, it was a bit more tricky because I think it would only invest lump sums, if that makes sense. Like at the time, they didn't have micro-investing apps, which I would have loved back then. But with micro-investing apps, you can invest from like 1 cent, even $5 at a time. Whereas with this robo-advisor, it's like you could deposit money in and but then it would only invest like, say, if you had $1,000. So
then it would roll over into the account.
Exactly,
Gotcha.
yeah. So just any money that we had spare, we would just chuck it in there and then like it would invest every so often. So yeah, it really wasn't much back in the days. And when I first moved out of home, it was really, really difficult because I was working 2 part-time jobs. One was a telemarketing job, which I was getting paid for, but the other was like an internship, which I wasn't getting paid for. And then having to pay for rent and groceries and like all of that. It was just, it was really hard when you're only kind of technically on a part-time salary. So yeah, I remember those first few years was really tough, just trying to, just live and pay for rent. And then also if we had anything left over, like try to invest. So yeah, it was tough.
How long did it take you to start seeing the effects of compound interest?
I think after that first $100,000, it's just got so much easier after that. So
how long did it take you to get to 100,000?
It took, I was living with my partner in like rental property and we were both saving for our first home together. So I was lucky like having 2 people saving at the same time. So got there faster than saving by ourselves. But yeah, it took us about 4 years to save $100,000 and yeah, it was really tough. Like I remember sacrificing so many things, like not going out, whenever we would go out to cafes with our friends, like I wouldn't order anything because I would just be so nervous about the cost and I just wanted to be able to save that deposit. But being able to save $100,000 for our deposit, like it was such a cool feeling. Like it sounds impossible and it seems impossible, but I feel like it is achievable, especially if you make those tiny, make those tiny steps. Yeah.
So with that initial $5,000 that you invested, can I ask where that eventually ended up reaching? Where are you at now with that?
Yeah, of course. So I'm so grateful to have crossed over $1 million in net worth, which is just insane. So now I'm 29. So it's just crazy looking like over a 10-year period, you can go from like $5,000 invested to having over $1 million in net worth, which is just wild to me. So I feel like it sounds scary and it feels really daunting, like especially if you don't have much money, if you maybe aren't in the best place financially right now, but like taking those tiny steps, they can move you into a completely different situation 5-10 years from now. Like it might not happen overnight, but those tiny steps, it can really compound.
That's extraordinary. I mean, from a 19-year-old with $5,000 to have crossed over the $1 million mark. I mean, what are you still on the ETF train there? Like, how have you been able to expand that much?
So I kind of started with the robo-advisor, then I decided to kind of like pick my own ETFs, which has been really nice. So you can have basically an investing app which allows you to pick your own ETFs, which has been quite cool. So I can pick ETFs that align with my values. I prefer investing in, I guess, some of the more ethical ETFs that screen out a few companies. So that's what I do mostly, just investing in ETFs. But I also do have an investment property basically the apartment that we bought as our first home, we are renting it out now. So, and we've bought another home to live in. So, one investment property. I also invest a little bit in crypto. I'm not sure what your thoughts are in crypto, but yeah, I have been investing since 2017.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And if you were sort of to divvy up the pie of your investments, how much of yours would be in crypto?
Oh, it's not much at all, like less than 5%, maybe even not even 1% or 2%. It's very small. I have sold some of it. We sold some of it to buy our new home. So yeah, that's why it's so small at the moment. But I think dollar cost averaging has been quite nice as well.
It seems to be a common theme with the people we've spoken to about sort of putting in a very small amount into Bitcoin and that amount being something that you're comfortable with losing. Is that your approach?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because I feel like if people are worried about risk and they're worried about investment risk, like stocks and property, that's one thing, but like crypto's like a whole other thing, you know. Like you could have, it's kind of like having that friend that is either having like the best day ever or having like the worst day ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that's what I picture crypto.
A small dose friend.
Yes, exactly. So it's
We've all got them.
Yes, exactly. So it's like you could either be up, you know, 50% or down 50% just as quickly. So yeah, just a little bit of the pie. But I do believe in it long term. So, but it is also money I'm comfortable losing.
Yeah. What has crypto done since 2017 when you first bought in?
It's crazy. I remember when I first started investing in Bitcoin, it was around $3,000, which like seemed very expensive at the time. But now it's like over $160,000, which is just wild to me. But yeah, it hasn't always been like steadily
fluctuated
up. It's
in that
fluctuated so much. And I also made a mistake when I was first started investing in Bitcoin. I kind of like bought in and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just too easy. I think I'm like a cryptocurrency genius because every time I like put some money in, it would just like increase by like 20%, 30% daily. It was just insane. But then eventually the market kind of got to this like bubble territory. And then my portfolio basically lost about 90% of its value. And because I was a new investor, I had only been investing in like my robo-advisor and like ETFs at that point. I hadn't experienced something as volatile as crypto. I freaked out when it lost 90% of its value and I sold when I shouldn't have. And I was just like, oh my gosh, worst mistake ever. But now I kind of am aware of the risk and I just dollar cost average into it. I try not to look at it, just like keep it for the long term and only a tiny percent of my portfolio that I'm comfortable with losing because yeah, it's so volatile. Do you invest in crypto? Or
I
what are your
don't.
thoughts?
No,
Yeah.
I don't yet. I'm becoming more interested. I'm looking at it and trying to just do my research on it. I'm not in it yet. And I don't know. I know a few people who are sort of dabbling. It seems to be a very divisive topic. People are really passionate one way or the other. Is that what you find?
Yeah, 100%. I think so too. I feel like it's good to have a bit of everything though. Like I'm a bit of that type of person. Like it's kind of like investments are a bit like a buffet, you know, and you can have a little bit of everything. Like you don't have to just choose one thing. And I think it's actually better too because say if the property market's having a really good run, then you're like, yeah, have a bit of property. Or let's say the stock market's doing really well. Yeah, have a bit of that too. So it's nice to have a bit of everything, I think.
I'm a low risk kind of gal.
Yeah.
So I need to do a lot more research before I take that leap. If you were building a portfolio of ETFs, what do you think a healthy diversification looks like in a basket of different ETFs? Obviously, without being able to sort of offer personal financial advice to anyone listening today, but generally speaking, what do you need a little bit of to make it a good mix?
Yeah, of course. I would say, Australia is amazing. We love Australia, but it's such a small percentage of the world. Like, I think our economy makes up like 2% of the world's like GDP, which it's a very small market. So if you're only investing in Australian shares, like you're missing out on 98% of the world's market. So I would say it's good to have a bit of a mix, like international shares and Australian shares. And ideally, like more international shares than Australian shares because we only make up 2%. So I like to buy ETFs that cover international markets and the Australian markets. one thing to be mindful of with ETFs is you might think that by buying like, say, 5 different ETFs, you're getting like basically like all different companies, all different industries, but it's not always the case because some ETFs overlap or they invest in the same thing. So just make sure that when you are picking a portfolio of ETFs that you're not buying the same thing, if that makes sense.
Over, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Because then you're unnecessarily spending money on brokerage fees.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So really, like your ETF portfolio doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's something that I wish I knew when I started. I thought that I needed to buy like 10 different ETFs or 5 different ETFs, but you actually only really need 1 or 2 ETFs in your portfolio. There are some really amazing ones out there that just cover like Australia and the world, and like that's basically all you need. It's crazy.
And how much focus do you put on dividends when you're selecting an ETF?
I'm personally not really super focused on dividends, but the good thing about Australian shares is they do pay really good dividends. So compared to the rest of the world, Australia has one of the highest dividend rates in the world, which is really cool. So when you invest in Australian shares, you will get really good dividends. And then also we have franking credits. So it basically means that your dividends aren't double taxed. So if you get a dividend from an Australian company or an Australian ETF, like a $1,000 dividend from an Australian company or Australian ETF compared to a $1,000 dividend from like an international ETF, basically the Australian ETF usually has a franking credit attached, which means that, you know, once you do all your paperwork at tax time, like you're basically kind of making more money from the Australian ETF because you have that franking credit. So yeah, it's really cool.
I love the way you talk about these things, these topics with such enthusiasm. It's like you're really excited by the possibility that investing can unlock for people who, you know, aren't born into money or into a world of wealth as well. Have you always felt positive about money? Have you always had this relationship with money?
Not always, to be honest. And yeah, this is something that I've kind of explored over the years. Like, I'm just really curious about how people are with money. And I've also done a lot of reflecting myself about like, what are my beliefs around money and is that serving me or is it holding me back in some ways? And I think it's also good for all of us to explore. But one thing I noticed about myself is that I had a bit of a weird relationship with money growing up because money was actually the main reason my parents divorced. And basically, I guess I'll paint a picture for my parents for you. So my dad, I was mainly raised by my dad. He was a single stay-at-home parent. He was a Malaysian Chinese immigrant and he had actually retired early. So he had enough money like invested that gave him passive income to cover our lifestyle.
Like how early?
He retired when he was about 40, 50, something like that. Yeah. So it was kind of interesting. But then at the same time, I never felt like we were rich because I went to public schools, like we didn't live in a fancy area. And he had this like really, really old car that was just very embarrassing. I would get him to drop me off a few streets away. Yeah, I'd be like, I don't want anyone to see my car. It was like a really, really old Mercedes. Like, but Mercedes are built pretty well. So even if you have a really old Mercedes, it still ran. But yeah, I remember it was like the early 2000s and this Mercedes was like a 1980s Mercedes. It was like a tank, you know.
We had a 1980s Holden Commodore station wagon, bright yellow,
with
vinyl
gosh.
seats.
Wow, yeah. I love it.
And only AM radio, no air conditioning.
Yeah, no air conditioning, and the wind up windows. Yeah. But yeah, my dad would always say like, you know, we're comfortable, like we're fine, all of our bills are paid. So I never felt like we were struggling, but never felt rich, you know.
Yeah.
But then my mum, she would still come to visit. She's Australian and she has like Irish, Scottish roots like way back, but she had a very different philosophy. So she just thought, you know, money's meant to be enjoyed. Like it's okay to spend money on things that make life comfortable and fun. And I just remember like seeing my two parents and like seeing them argue about little things. Like in winter, my dad would get really upset if mum would switch the heating on and, you know, things like that. And I understood that they both had a point about it. And it was a bit sad that they couldn't find a balance because I think that balance is so important. So I feel like now I try to have a bit more of a balance with money. Sometimes I'm too frugal, and I don't let myself enjoy money and life as much. But then sometimes I've been a bit too like frivolous and like spent way too much money on stuff. So yeah, I feel like the balance is important.
Do you feel, well, it sounds like you've drawn on both of their dynamics with money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we all have, some sort of relationship with money. It's worth exploring because sometimes you might even have limiting beliefs about money and about yourself with money. And I feel like that's also something that's holding a lot of people back. Like things like, I'm not good with money. I'll never be like good with money. And people like me can't be investors. Like those sorts of limiting beliefs can really limit you. And I really do think that the only thing separating the people that are good with money and the people that are not so good with money is really fundamentally just that belief about themselves.
What I really admire about your work is how focused you are on reframing our relationship with money and finances. What would your message be to someone who's listening today who's feeling really stressed or even fearful when it comes to money?
Ooh, okay. I would say, to be honest, I've really done some digging about money, and some people think that money is the root of all evil, whereas some people think that money is good and it can help them achieve their dreams. And I think something that I've realized over the years is that all of these perspectives are correct because there are different types of money. And I kind of like to think of them as like 4 kind of quadrants. So basically you have fun money and heavy money. So fun money might be money that you earn through a job that you love doing. You know, you receive that money, it has positive energy and you feel good about earning that type of money. Whereas like heavy money might be money it's tied to stress and uncertainty. So it might be receiving an inheritance or receiving a severance package. It's like you receive the money, but it doesn't feel great, you know? So I guess ideally, the way to reframe your relationship with money is if you are earning money in kind of heavy ways, like maybe you're working a job that you don't love or working for a company that just doesn't really align with your values, it's like receiving that kind of money, it doesn't really feel fulfilling and it kind of weighs you down. So I think it's important to try and earn money in positive ways or like ways that feel good, and then you feel like happy to earn that money. You want to earn more of it. You want to like spread it positively, and it kind of like creates this positive feedback loop. And then also ideally focusing on money that's in your control, because I feel like so many stories are like, oh my gosh, this person won the lottery, or this person received an inheritance from some long lost prince that they didn't even know they were related to. It's like, wow, you hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, when's my lucky break going to come? But ideally, like, even those people that receive those lucky breaks, like they don't even really have control over receiving that money either. So maybe we shouldn't be looking up to those people. Like maybe we should be looking up to the people that are earning money in ways that are skillful or kind of within their control.
You often hear about how winning the lotto has ruined someone's life. You know, we all dream about winning the lottery and we sit there and talk about what we do with it. And then you hear these stories about how it's destroyed a family or it's all disappeared or whatever. Like it can really come with a downside, can't it?
Absolutely. And I feel like when you earn money in a way that's more within your control, like obviously that still can be some luck involved with like earning money from like a job or a business or those sorts of things. But when it is more in your control compared to winning the lottery, like you can scale it, you can replicate it, you can grow it. And it's also kind of fulfilling because you're like, this is money that I'm earning through my own skills. And it's a nice way to earn money.
I mean, I think I'd still like to win the lottery, you know, just for fun, see what I could do with it.
Yeah, why not? I mean, who doesn't love that kind of money, you know? Yeah.
Just invest it, you know?
Exactly.
Live off the dividends.
Exactly.
Okay, so you talk about the 3 Fs, foundation, fun and freedom. Can you break them down?
Yeah, of course. So ideally, we've kind of got, I kind of like to see all of our expenses or all of the things that we could spend money on kind of divided into 3 different categories. So First, you've got foundation, and this is stuff that you really need to live. So things like your rent or mortgage, your electricity bills, like all of the non-negotiable things. Exactly. Then you've got fun, which is the thing that just makes life worth living, like getting a coffee with your friends or traveling or
Pilates classes.
buying something nice for yourself. And it's also really important to have some fun in your budget as well, because if you don't have it, you just might feel like you're grinding away, but you're never actually enjoying the money that you've earned. And then we've got freedom, and this is also really important. So these are the things that are going to buy you freedom in the future. So things like investing, savings, for example, investing in stocks, getting an investment property, those sorts of things, like they can really buy you the freedom in the future. And I feel like a budget's working really well when you have all three of these things in your budget, because let's say you have foundation and you have freedom but no fun, like we discussed before, like you might feel like you're never enjoying yourself, you might get burnt out. Whereas if you have, say, foundation and fun but no freedom, you might be having fun, but also in the back of your mind, you might be like, what are you doing? You're going to be working forever, or you can't keep this up. And that's why I feel like it's important to have all three Fs, because if you don't, then something's got to give, you know?
What do you think is the key takeaway that people will take from this book?
I think that basically money doesn't have to be stressful or boring. And I feel like there is a way that you can reframe it. It actually, the idea for the book, it actually came to me one night when I was having dinner with my dad. And as we discussed, he's like super frugal, very kind of like smart with his money. But I always kind of felt like he was a bit sad because he never enjoyed spending money like other people did. So I always thought like there was something missing for him, like he was a bit miserable. But this one night over dinner, I actually had this realization, and I was like, oh my gosh, it just makes sense. Basically what happened was we were just talking about, our everyday lives. My dad was telling me about how he bought this backpack for only $7, and he was like, oh my gosh, what a great deal. Yeah, he was so happy with himself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just started investing for Gia, my baby girl. I'm so excited for her. Like, I've been putting some money away for her. And we were just like so excited. And I realized in that moment that my dad isn't actually sad or miserable with money. He actually just enjoys like a bargain and like finding a deal and like investing, like that's like a game for him.
Yeah, it's like my dad used to text us every day that the meat would go on sale at Woolies or Coles. He's like, there's a good deal on rumps at the moment, you know?
Exactly.
He gets a kick out of it.
Exactly. Like, and I was like, that's what it is. And I think that's rubbed off on me too, because like, don't get me wrong, I love spending money. Like I love, traveling, buying nice things for myself every now and again. But I also get a kick out of like finding a great deal. Like
you get one up on the big supermarkets. They got enough of our money.
Exactly. Like it's so fun. It can be really satisfying. Like when your money is making money and you don't have to do anything, like getting dividends and you literally did nothing. Like there's no better feeling than getting free money.
So his idea of fun finance might be different to yours, but at the end of the day, he's finding the fun in his money.
Exactly, yeah. And I feel like reframing that, turning into a bit of a game, that's the way that you can win with your money, because if you don't enjoy it, if it's like boring, you're not going to do it. And if you don't do it, you're not going to get good with your money. But if you find a way to make it enjoyable and fun and kind of addictive in the best way, then you're going to win and you're going to enjoy your life too. So, yeah.
You mentioned little Gia. She's what, 1.5?
Yes, 1.5.
And so you've set up her own investment account.
Yes.
Is that right? So we've done this with our kids.
Oh my
Very
gosh.
small
Well
amount.
done.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the benefit of this project. We're becoming much more aware of what's available, and we all worry about our kids and the future and what their options are going to be in the long run when it comes to building financial security and independence. And I don't want them living with me when they're 45.
Yes,
I love them. I mean, actually, I probably do want them to live with me when they're 45. I love my boys so much. But you want them to live their own lives and to have some financial security. So what I often wonder though, when do you start teaching your child about what that account is doing? Because you also don't want to give them a silver platter and say, here's your future all sorted, you want them to have some hunger and some drive and motivation to achieve things, as you were saying, have the satisfaction of earning money themselves as well. So how are you going to go about teaching Gia about investing and what to do with that money?
Oh my gosh, I feel you. Oh my gosh, I really feel you.
It's such a tug of war, isn't it?
It is.
You want to help them, but you want to teach them.
Exactly. And you do want to give them their satisfaction because, like, I think being able to do things by yourself or like having that satisfaction is so important, and I wouldn't want to rob her of that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want her life to be so hard that she feels like she doesn't have any support if something goes wrong. So yeah, I guess it's a balance. I can't wait till we can actually communicate with each other and I can tell her about investing. But one way I do want to try and do it is maybe like, instead of like just giving pocket money, maybe like setting up a few chores around the house. Not every chore that she does, but like just a few that could be paid, and she could earn money that way. And I want to also teach her about compound interest because compound interest is incredible and it's so motivating. Have you heard about the rule of 72?
No.
Oh my gosh, this is pretty cool because I've known about compound interest for a while, but I've only recently discovered the rule of 72, and I was like, this is amazing, and it really puts things into perspective. Basically, you get 72 and then you divide it by whatever return you're getting on your investment. So let's say you get an 8% return on your investments. You get 72 divided by 8, that gives you 9 years. So that means every 9 years, whatever money you have invested will double. So it's just wild. So the earlier you start investing, the more your money can start doubling. So let's say you're starting with, say, $1,000. 9 years later, it becomes $2,000. And then the crazy thing is, like, the longer your money is invested, like, the crazier the numbers get, you know? So you can go from, say, $600,000 invested. 9 years later, it becomes 1.2 million. And that's how, like, it might seem wild going from, like we discussed before, $5,000 to over $1 million in 10 years. But like, because of this compound interest, it can just happen. Like, the hardest part is starting. The numbers might seem small at the beginning, but then once
it snowballs.
It really snowballs, you know? So just think about that. Like, all the money you have invested, 9 years later,
that's
doubling.
Something you need to put on the fridge for
yes,
the kids
exactly,
for the future.
exactly.
So they don't forget. And when they go off to their first job at McDonald's,
yes, exactly.
they can start putting a little bit away.
Yes,
I
what do
didn't
you
save
plan to
anything
do?
when I worked at McDonald's. I just wanted to buy new clothes. I was the youngest of 3 kids and many cousins, and so all I did was wear hand-me-downs until I got my first job. And then I wasted
cute.
it all on clothes. I was an idiot.
Me too. I mean, I would buy so many like smoothies and like clothes and just like stuff that I never wore as well. But yeah. I'm curious, what are you doing for your kids as well? How do you want to teach them?
Well, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. We had Chris Breike from StockSpot on the podcast a couple of months ago, and he's already started teaching his young boys about investing with his own app.
Cool.
And he was saying that his youngest is now going around the schoolyard telling all the other kids to stream Disney because he's got shares in Disney. So I thought that's a pretty big baller move for like a 6-year-old.
Cute. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But look, we're in constant sort of discussions about it. They're only 5 and 4, so we've got a little bit of time before I think we need to really start having serious conversations with them about it. But, you know, do we sort of introduce it to them when they're maybe 11 or 12 and then maybe talk about what happens with it when they're 18 or 21 and I think, anyway, they're conversations that we'll be having over time. But that's why I'm always curious to ask other people what they're doing and how they're going to teach them. But, I mean, there are opportunities to teach kids every day about money, aren't there? You know, every time they ask for something at the shop and you know, they ask to go on a ride or they ask to go on the little cars at the Westfields. They want to ride it every time. And you just have to say, I've run out of money. We've started using that line, I'm out of money this month. When we get paid, we might talk about getting that thing that you want next month in the next pay cycle.
I love that.
Little things like that.
Actually, I have a funny story. So my uncle, he actually... whenever he would take his kids to the shopping centre and they see those rides, like... basically, they didn't know that you're supposed to put money in and the rides move.
Oh, they just sat on them? That's great.
Sat on them. And they were so happy because like they thought that that's what it was supposed to happen. And then one day they saw it moving with the lights flashing and they were like, hang on, what's this?
You've been ripping us off all this time. It is the worst $3 you'll spend. Honestly, it goes for about 30 seconds. It's like they may as well just sit on it, and pretend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes to show you like that kind of comparison trap. Like they were perfectly happy just sitting on them, having a great time. But then once they saw it moving and the flashing lights, and they got FOMO, and it's like just that comparison trap. And I think we all get stuck in it sometimes. Like you're happy with what you have until you see someone with more, and then you want more as well. Like that's also a huge trap.
I want to ask you, before we run out of time, about a bit about travel, because I think for so many of us, I know certainly for me, the thing I enjoy spending my money on most is experiences, is traveling, taking my kids to new places, going with my husband to new places, having big family holidays with our extended families. That's the stuff that I really enjoy spending money on. But following your account, you often have really good breakdowns of your travel budgets. And I wondered if you've got some really good tips or advice for our listeners on how to make the most of their travel budget.
Yeah, of course. I would say definitely like saving money regularly is really important. So instead of, say, for example, I used to spend quite a lot of money on eating out, and restaurant meals can be quite expensive, $50 to $70 if you're two people, maybe even more if you add on drinks. But now instead of like going out to eat a full meal, I'll go out to like coffee and bubble tea or gelato or a pastry, and like these things kind of give me that fix. I can still catch up with a friend, but it's not so expensive. And then what I'm saving, I can redirect towards travel and just make a few trade-offs in some areas of my life, like maybe not shopping as much and spending more money on travel. Another thing that has really helped was I started learning how to use credit cards wisely to earn points and redeem those points for flights. That has been amazing, but I feel like it only works if you're quite diligent.
You've got to be really on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to pay off everything in full so you don't accrue any interest. But if you are using your credit card wisely, you're not going into debt with it, you're paying off in full, you can accumulate quite a lot of points, which you can redeem for cheaper flights or even hotels or upgrades and things like that. So there are so many opportunities. Yeah, I think in the point space is really exciting. But then even just like booking a few months in advance, maybe if there's like a nice hotel that you want to stay at, double checking the prices at different times, at different dates as well. Like the prices can be pretty dramatic. And maybe one more tip is like I kind of try to mix like spending quite a lot in some areas of travel and then like saving money in other areas. So we did a Europe trip, and Europe can be quite expensive. Thankfully, one of my partner's mum lives in Paris, so we were able to stay with her for a few weeks, which saved us a lot of money. But with the money that we saved, we were like, let's splurge on like one really nice night at a hotel with a view of the Eiffel Tower. So it's like we're saving money, not having to spend on accommodation by staying with his mum. But then, we still get to enjoy like one really amazing experience at the Eiffel Tower. So I feel like maybe in your budget you could do that. Maybe stay at like cheap accommodation or like save money in some areas and then also treat yourself in some other areas. If there's a cool experience you want to do, spend money on that guilt-free, knowing that you saved money along the way,
But don't stay in the place with the view of the Eiffel Tower for a whole month.
Yes, exactly, exactly, because that would get boring too.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing would be I also like to make a meal myself every day when I'm traveling, because restaurant meals can get quite expensive.
Oh, you save so much money doing that.
Yeah, like make a sandwich, bring it on the go. Like you'll easily save like $50 a day, and you can still enjoy one really nice meal out per day. So yeah, go to the grocery stores, make a sandwich, or make a meal at home.
Are you working towards a financial goal or something at the moment? Is there something you've got yourself set on?
I guess my goal would be ultimate financial freedom, which is basically when you have enough passive income from your investments to completely pay for your lifestyle. That would be amazing.
How far off that do you think you might be?
I'm quite a long way away. I would ideally love to have $20,000 in passive income. So that means you would need to have like around $6 million invested. So it's going to take a while. But I also feel like you've got to enjoy the journey to financial independence along the way. So I'm just grateful that I can be doing work that I enjoy. And like one day I would love to reach that goal, but I just want to enjoy my life along the way, like earn money in a way that feels good. Because I feel like retiring sounds amazing, but I also saw firsthand through my dad that he kind of missed working or doing something. He actually had to give up his job in order to take care of me. Like the family law court said that he had to.
Wow.
So I kind of like saw that, you know, he was happy taking care of me, but he kind of missed something. And I feel like we're all a bit like that. Like we crave
purpose.
meaning, and work gives us that purpose. As long as you're not doing it, you know, it's like you don't feel like you have to and like you hate your job and, you know, that kind of negative feedback loop. Like if you're doing something you love, you enjoy, like work can bring meaning and dignity,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that's the ultimate jackpot, isn't it?
Yes,
Finding a job
exactly.
that gives you meaning and purpose.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you are such a wealth of knowledge, Queenie, and we love getting your insights. Thanks so much for joining us this
Oh,
week.
thank you so much for having me.
Get the book. It's great.
Oh, thank you.